The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, the space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today.
Today we have a question from Ray, who writes to us from Bangor, Maine. And Ray writes, so now the Housing Affordability Act, a bipartisan bill that actually had momentum, is on hold until Trump gets his SAVE Act passed. He's reportedly pressuring members of his own party, either advance the SAVE Act despite the serious concerns some Republicans have raised, or face the wrath of his base in November. The irony is hard to miss. The Housing Affordability Act could have given Republicans a rare, positive policy achievement to run on this fall. Instead, Trump remains fixated on his false claims of widespread voter fraud, and the SAVE Act has become another loyalty test rather than a substantive legislative priority. I'd really like to hear what the panel thinks. Should Republicans stand their ground, override a veto if necessary, pass the housing bill, and let the SAVE Act die? Do they have the political courage to break from Trump on this? And does this hand Democrats a clear line of attack heading into November? From a messaging standpoint, what's the smarter strategy? Focus on the tangible benefits of the Housing Affordability Act, or highlight the flaws and controversies surrounding the SAVE Act? I don't know why you can't do both for messaging. Focusing on the tangible benefits and highlighting the flaws. But I would stand my ground, but I wouldn't be a Republican anyway. I don't know if they have the political courage to break from Trump on anything, to be honest. But
well, what do they say in red state America?
I don't know.
No, that's why I'm asking Mark, basically.
Yeah, Mark?
I think red state of it's kind of funny to figure out exactly what red state America is talking about, what they're thinking on things like this. This is the housing affordability. It does have widespread bipartisan support. It passed 95-5 or 90-5 in the Senate. I mean, come on. Nothing passes like that in the United States Senate. Just does not happen. I think the Senate, to the question, I think the Senate is pretty much settled that they support the Housing Affordability Act. It's the House that you've got to wonder about. Because, again, we've talked about this numerous times before, House members come up every 2 years, where senators come up every 6. So, the Senate gets a little bit more, I would say, cover on something like this if they stand up against Trump, because the fact is some of them probably won't come up for re-election until well after he's long gone, thankfully. The Housing Affordability Act was really one of those kind of ideas, and let's remember they had a signing ceremony all set up. And then Trump, I don't know, pooped his diapers or something, and it was basically taken out because he wants the SAVE Act through. And the SAVE Act, basically wants more control by the federal government to audit, basically the election, the voter rolls. And historically, throughout the founding of our country, it is the states that control the voting in the United States, not the federal government. This idea that all these non-citizens are voting, where it's been proven by even the most conservative of think tanks, I mean, we're talking about like the Federalist Society and people like that, the Heritage Foundation, who have said, it's like 0.000007 of illegal voting. I don't know, 4 out of all the votes cast. That does not change an election. It seems like an answer to a problem that doesn't exist, and it's a backdoor way for the federal government to take some real infringement of control on the voting. What does Red State of America say about that? I guess it all depends if you're MAGA or if you're just a conservative Republican. I would think that if you're MAGA, you're all for it. Because that tilts the playing field in some way, you believe, to your advantage. I mean, if you're just a standard conservative Republican, if there are any out there still, you probably don't see the need. I don't think anyone, whether you're MAGA or whether you're conservative Republican, Democrat, whatever, I don't think anybody could be against the Housing Affordability Act. I mean, it makes sense. And I think that's something that we haven't seen very much out of the government in past years.
So the 5 years that I was in the state Senate working for a New York State senator, one of the things that kept coming up time and time again was the phrase unfunded mandates. And the idea was that the government can impose laws on states that are not paid for, and the state has to comply with them because it's now the law. And it's just something that the states don't want to have to spend the money on because budgets are tight. It is the Save America Act is a cool name for a bad bill that doesn't solve any problems at all, that turns elections over to the federal government, and that will disenfranchise probably 21 million Americans right off the top who don't have ready access to documents that are required for, to be able to register to vote and then go vote on election day. It is, I don't think I had a paper copy of my birth certificate until I was something like 40 years old. It just wasn't something that I had, and I needed it. I think I needed it when I wanted to get dual citizenship. So I had to go to the Social Security office or the New York Records, New York City Board of Records or something like that, and order a birth certificate because I didn't have one. Most people don't have passports. Like I have 2 passports, a British one and an American one, but most people don't. And I think it's like half of Americans don't have passports. The only reason that they're doing this is to make it harder to vote so that people won't bother to vote. I mean, this is the problem. We would all say, right, that this is a problem in America, that not enough people vote, that there's voter apathy that we need to fight against, and this would increase voter apathy by making it more difficult to vote. So it's a ridiculous idea. The Republicans should reject it. It's not new. It's been around for a while, and it's always been rejected. On the other hand, the Housing Affordability Act increases the supply of housing, which apparently tends to get bought up by private equity companies looking to invest, or if not investing in homes for people to live in, to at least decrease the supply of houses available to people so that the houses that are available can go up in price. This is obviously cynical, harmful. I remember a couple of years ago, we were 3 million houses too short. Now we're 7 million houses too short. And next thing you know, we'll be 15 million houses too short. The population grows. The people who want to afford housing can't, because you need to make, I think it's like almost $120,000 a year to afford a house now, which is way too high for young people who are already burdened with student loans, probably, in some cases, and other debt. So the country is in a mess because of these stupid Republican ideas, and people really need to educate themselves on this. find out what these bills are all about, and decide which ones are important. As I think Brooke pointed out, this could be veto proof. This is veto proof. Like if Trump didn't do anything about it, then they could revote it, or I think it becomes law after like 10 days or whatever it is, once they deliver it. Mike Johnson is carrying water for Trump by not bringing it to the White House to sign. But that can't last forever. It's just more stupid, corrupt shenanigans from a stupid, corrupt administration that does not have what is best for the American people at heart.
Absolutely. I mean, really, what the Housing Affordability Act is actually gives more access to multifamily housing. It changes the way the FHA calculates, eligibility, number one. It actually changes the way they look at the real cost of housing. Instead of using just the consumer price index, they use basically the true cost of construction, which is totally different. And it would be a great opportunity for a lot of people that want to get into a home. And again, why would anybody be against that? It also allows for an annual review of the policy and how things are calculated. So again, why would that be a bad thing compared to what we do now, which is, we go by things like credit scores, we go by things by consumer price indexes, we go by, those kind of things, and they're really not a true evaluator of somebody's ability to pay for a home, nor the real cost of homes. And right now, especially with tariffs on wood and things like that, if we take the consumer price index, it really does harm the ability of somebody to say, okay, listen, I want to buy this house. It's multifamily house. I want to buy this multifamily house, and it's probably worth $200,000. Well, the consumer price index, the way it is now, might say that it's actually worth $300,000, which puts it out of their range, which puts it totally out of their range. Our youngest daughter and her husband and the new baby just bought a house in North Carolina, and I went up to help a little bit with the moving in and all that. And when they told me what they paid for it, I was like, I wouldn't have given you $120,000 for this place. But because of the economy, the way it sits, it was, well over twice that amount. And that really takes for young couples, for young people, takes them out of the market. I drive around here in Spartanburg County, South Carolina, and there are all sorts of new housing developments going up. And whenever we drive through, my wife and I both ask ourselves, who the hell's moving into all these houses? And you see them, they say, starting in the 300s. I'm wow. I mean, where do you think the people are working that are making that kind of money to be able to afford such a thing? I mean, the house that we live in now, when we bought, we had to have it reappraised for insurance purposes because what the insurance is going to pay out. What they came back in the appraisal was 3 times what I paid for it 16 years ago. And I was like, wait a minute, how can that be possible?
Congratulations.
But it is. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the pool. The pool and the bar in the back probably is what made it go up so high. But we're taking that concept of, buying a home, and we're making it very difficult. And a lot of what this is addressing is it's difficult in the way we calculate who can afford it and who can't, and how much it costs. And this bill is really out there to try to correct that. And like I say, it's got a provision in it. It's going to be reviewed, I believe, annually. Why would we not want this? I think this was a real opportunity for Republicans, and they fumbled, plain and simple.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
From digital security to social cohesion, the Resilience podcast series brings expert insights on strengthening civil society in challenging times. Listen to the latest episodes and join the conversation.
Yeah, well, they're willing to follow this guy down the darkest of paths.
Yep.
And it is mind-boggling. You know, some of the things some of the provisions in the bill are things like that you don't need to have this frame. You know, you can have prefabricated houses. There's all these ways of making housing less expensive than it has been, and it's I think the it's kind of old news at this point that people who own houses tend to be more responsible citizens. You know, commit fewer crimes, take less drugs, don't drink and drive as much, don't do egregious things to other people and things like that. I mean, owning a home is a serious commitment and responsibility, as well as a great investment for your future. So again, it's just it really is disturbing to say the least, that Republicans continue to follow this guy and not just break away from him. I don't know what it's going to take. Something will have to happen, I guess, drastic. I mean, like some kind of really, really serious problem before these Republicans finally say, you know what, enough is enough.
Yeah, even if they do, Scott. And I did hear one of the Republicans was on the news the other day. He goes, this is just barely a watered down. There was an act beforehand, the 21st Century Road to Housing Act.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this bill does not include 45 of the provisions of that Road to Housing Act. So the things that maybe Republicans could complain about. This does not restrict institutional investors, so it doesn't hurt, those big companies that like to, buy up these developments. It does not talk about zoning reform. It ignores zoning reform. It does not create new grant programs. Doesn't do any of that. It does not overhaul the environmental review process. All these kind of things that you might say, well, Republicans might have an issue with, especially like environmental review and things like that. They don't exist in this. It simply really has more to do with the FHA than it has to do with anything else. And it makes housing possible for a lot of people that under the current system, it may not be possible. And I see this as the Republicans absolutely fumbling the football because they don't have a lot to run on in November. They don't have a lot of great record to run on, and this would have really given them at least one really good talking point. They sure as hell can't run on the Iraq war or Iran war. They sure can't talk about affordability overall. They can't talk about energy prices. They can't talk about grocery prices. They can't talk about anything else. But this could have given them something to hang their hat on, and instead. The sore loser is mad because, I don't know, 2 dead people supposedly voted, and that caused him to lose the election by, X number of million in 2020. It's self-defeating for the Republicans. And I agree with you, Scott. At some point in time, the Republicans have got to get their heads out of their ass and say, listen, we can't do this anymore. Because if we do, we're going to destroy the whole party. And we've talked about this before. Maybe that's his entire plan. His master evil plan is to destroy the Republican Party for good, because that's what he's doing.
I think he already has, to be honest. I mean, it's the party of MAGA, the party of Trump. And I honestly don't think that there is anything that will make the people who have not already broken from him and left the party do so. With Epstein, with the war, with all the lying, with the clear confusion and speaking that he has done that does not make any sense. And the lying and the blaming other people and turning on people the one time they might vote against him, and the insurrection, and being very happy about saying that Mike Pence deserved to be hanged because he wouldn't disobey the Constitution. And yet people follow him, and people in the country still support him. I don't think there is anything that will make people see. I was listening to what Mike Johnson was saying about how the president would surely see the wisdom of the Housing Act, and how he was, and Mike Johnson, his vocal tone went up like he was speaking to a little child, and how the president would surely see the wisdom of this, and how once the president had it explained to him, he was sure the president would understand the value of that. And and I was like, oh my God, if this is, no, the man is not going to see it because he wants his SAVE Act, and he shouldn't have it.
Yeah.
And people are going to lose that. And the Supreme Court has ruled that being homeless is against the law. So people, and rents are way up, and people are not making enough money to pay their rents. They're living in their cars. They're living in storage sheds, storage units. And they can't afford to buy anything, certainly. And they need their government to do something. And Trump doesn't care. It's clear that Republicans are not, they're afraid of him, or something is very wrong here with our government.
They're afraid of the MAGA base, and I think they overestimate the size of the MAGA base. And I know why Scott asked what Red America is thinking, because I live in the middle of Red America, and there's no doubt about it. And I will say this, the Housing Affordability Act, I've not heard one single thing against it here, but the SAVE Act, there's still that brainwashed attitude here that, yes, we've got to keep those damn illegals from voting. But even when you present them with the evidence that there's no such thing, their attitude is yes, but one is one too many. That's kind of the attitude that they take out of this. One is one too many. Out of 150 million, that one, that matters a lot. So that's the argument they make. They're still brainwashed into that idea that that elections are not secure. If you got one instance, and if you tell them, yeah, well, there was this one instance, but it was a Republican that did it. Oh, well, that's a little different. That's okay. But there's a disconnect in understanding. And I see it here all the time. There's just this huge disconnect in who truly understands what.
Yeah. Whew. It is. There is a certain amount of craziness in the attitude that one person slipping through means that you tear down the whole system. We always remember that book, What's Wrong with Kansas? Well, Kansas, took the lead after the 2016 election on trying to prevent illegal voters from voting, right? Or voter fraud, or whatever you want to call it. And they put a law in place, despite the fact that they had discovered themselves that non-citizen registration in Kansas was rare. It's like, as you pointed out, 0.002% of registered voters register to vote. Most of them in local elections, where some localities who have a lot of immigrant population do allow illegal immigrants to vote, but not in national elections, only in local elections. And what they ended up doing was they they prevented, I think, 31,000 eligible citizens from voting. So 12% of all the people who registered to vote were legal to vote, but they were prevented from doing so because of this idea that they were non-citizens voting. It's like 12%. You want to like cut out 12% of the voters. Now, I want to be cynical here for a second and say, yeah, the Republicans do want to limit the number of people who are voting. The Republicans want to stop women from voting. And my wife had to jump through hoops to get her driver's license, her passport, her birth certificate, all to say the same thing, right? Because she'd been married. She has a confirmation name or something like that. Like she discovered in this process that her name is not, as she always thought it was, Rosemarie, but her name is Rose and Marie is her middle name. You know, there's all kinds of like problems that she had, you know, and she goes by the name Rory, and she had all kinds of problems like getting everything like, you know, all together. And it was like an obsession with her. She was running to the courthouses and she was running to the Social Security office and all kinds of stuff like that, and the town halls, and you know, calling up New York City Board of Records to get her birth certificate, and all kinds of stuff like that. And not everybody's going to do that. It's important for her to want to vote, but a lot of people just wouldn't do it. And again, you look at federal data, and it doesn't say that people who are not eligible to vote are voting. And in fact, in one county in Texas, this is a great stat. Travis County, Texas, reported that 25% of all the voters that were flagged as potential non-citizens had already provided proof of citizenship when they were registering to vote. I'm guessing they probably had Hispanic last names. So, you know, it's just a solution that's seeking a problem. There is no problem with non-citizens voting. We should try to make it. Of course, we only want, I think, and both parties and everybody in the country who says the same thing. We want everybody who is eligible to vote, and nobody who's not eligible to vote to vote. and because of that, we want to make sure that people have a clear path to voting, make it easier for them, not harder for them. And this Safe America Act, which is like Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, was written by Chip Roy in the House and Mike Lee, I think, in Congress, in the Senate. And it's just a dumb idea. It is just like, doesn't accomplish anything. And the fact that Trump is throwing his weight behind it should tell you all you need to know. This is a power play where the federal government is trying to take over elections that have been the province of states and localities for the entire existence of the country.
And it's an important thing to remember. This never came up until you had Donald Trump.
Yes, that's right.
This argument never came up. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I listened to so many different news programs and whatnot, and it might have been Mark Elias on Democracy Docket. He was pointing out that no single American ID will do what Trump wants, because the driver's license doesn't say you're an American citizen, and your passport doesn't have your address on it. And so I think Trump wants something that has and the birth certificate, of course, doesn't have a photograph. And people actually who have been caught up by ICE, who have produced the birth certificates, have been told that the birth certificates are fake. So, and they're an American citizen as well. And so no single actual one ID has your citizenship, your address, your photo, everything that Trump wants. And it becomes impossible then to actually have the correct document that Trump is demanding that a person have in order to be eligible to vote according to what Trump says you have to have. It's and as you say, Mark, it's not until Trump came along was this a big deal. It was just not. It
No.
just and Trump did the same thing during the Emmys when he didn't win. Oh, everything was rigged. And I mean, people are forgetting that Trump has a long history that spans nearly 2 decades now. Back in like 2010 or whatever it was, or when his football team that he owned and he tried to start another football league.
Right.
When that
All
didn't
right.
work, it was rigged. And I mean, whenever he didn't win, it was
Yeah,
rigged. And this is
I-
part of his mental illness. And people need to understand that he has a long history going back in his
Yeah.
personal life of grievances and how he needs to win everything. And his behavior is simply continuing.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, he's against voting by mail, but he votes by mail. The contradictions go on and on and on. The three of us, by the way, are old enough to remember when our driver's licenses didn't have our pictures on them.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh,
yeah, my mother's didn't. It was just a
And
piece of paper, like
yeah,
you fold
so-
it in half, like a little thin cardboard thing for
yeah,
New York
yeah,
State.
right. And you put
Flimsy.
it
It
in
was pretty flimsy.
Yeah, and you kept it in your wallet, and every now and then you would have to pull it out and show it to somebody if you wanted to get into a bar or vote or something. But that's it. Like, they didn't look at you and look at it. Like, this whole, like, show me your papers aspect of this is really disturbing. And people move, like I don't have to update my driver's license every time I move, do I? If I'm moving within the state. People move around. Americans move. Like, almost 10% of Americans have moved within the state that they live in the past year. And they're not updating their driver's license until they have to, because it's so expensive to do it.
Well, because you have to go to the motor vehicle department.
You have to go to the DMV. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody
So,
wants to do that.
It's just anybody who's out there who's listening to this and who wants to make a counter argument for it, please do. But understand that you're swimming up current. It's not an issue. It really isn't. And Trump doesn't get all the votes he wants. If every single American doesn't vote for him, he thinks that people will think he's a failure. And he wants to do something about that and prevent as many people who wouldn't vote for him to not, including women, right? I mean, the whole soccer mom thing and going back a few years is, just educated white women are against Trump. Black women are against Trump. So he hates women voters. He doesn't like that idea. And there are people in his administration who want women to have rights. They want women barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. And, we just can't go back there. And it's just insanity.
Well, they're still complaining about. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just, go ahead, Brooke. I mean, we need to wrap this one up because it feels like we're going to start getting repetitive.
Well, I was just reminded again about the California mayor and the fact that whatever the guy's name was, their celebrity daytime TV, whatever he was, person who got third with the two Democratic women ahead of him, and how he should have been higher, or he should have been first, or this or that, and it was rigged, and it was this and that. Because their favorite didn't get it. In LA County, I believe, is about 20% Republican, and the rest are registered Democrats. And the guy got about 20% of the votes. So if you are a Republican in a Republican area, you're going to get and you get 20% of the votes, and 20% of the people are registered Republican. That should match up. And if you were a Democrat in a Democrat, and 20% of the voters vote Democrat, and that's what you get, no one is going to complain and say,
Oh, yeah.
it was rigged.
Wrong.
Really?
Trump will complain.
Well, that's true. They've got too many. It was rigged. But I mean, normally under normal conditions, the math works out, right? 20% if everybody votes. And that is the percentage of the people who are registered, and everybody comes out and votes for you, and you're the least popular candidate, and everybody votes for you who is registered to vote for you, and that's the percentage of the population you get. That is what you're going to get. I mean, that should surprise nobody. But oh no, I mean, you can't expect to get more than the people who are registered to vote for Republican. Those are the people who are for Republicans. 20%. Oh, it takes so long. It takes so long. I was listening to Pod Save America, and these young men live in LA, and they said their ballot is actually several pages long. It's quite involved. Then they do it by mail, and they're opened up by human beings, and everything has to be opened. It has to be looked at. Their signatures have to be verified by hand. And if there's any question, if the signatures don't match, it has to be what's called cured. So the votes have to be cured, and they have 21 days to cure the votes. So if the signature on file does not look like the signature on the ballot, they have to get in touch with the voter, who has 21 days to go in and attend to whether, yes, that's my signature, or no, it's not. So this is one reason why LA County takes so long to count its votes. Yeah. It's not a question of anything being rigged. It's a question of how complicated the ballot is, and the fact that it's opened up by hand and everything is verified. So if you want accurate counting, and you want to make sure that the right person did in fact send in that ballot, and you want all the signatures verified, and you want everything to be correct, it's going to take a long time.
Right.
Yeah, we're coming up on the All-Star game, and I don't know if you remember this, Mark, if you did this when you were a kid. But when you went to Shea Stadium, you got like ballots, right? Yep. These ballots for the All-Star, and all the New York kids would punch the ballots for their favorite players, yep. And it never had any effect on the All-Star game.
Oh God, no, it didn't. No.
You're good. Jerry Grody didn't make it,
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Johnny Bench was there, and it's just ridiculous to continue this thing. There's fines and there's imprisonment, and you lose your vote forever. And for what? For like spitting in the ocean. Forget about it.
Okay.
Was there a real Johnny Bench with the last name of Bench?
Yes.
Yes, there was.
Yes, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, the greatest catcher ever.
Really?
Yeah, I would think. Yeah.
His last name was Bench. Oh, I really didn't know that.
Okay.
All right. So thank you for the questions.
And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Phoenix Research Group,
an independent research consortium dedicated to providing solutions to social and political issues for NGOs and international government agencies. Through multidisciplinary, nonpartisan, and unbiased research, the Phoenix Research Group advances understanding and practical strategies for complex challenges. The Phoenix Research Group is a division of the Phoenix Research Institute, the producer of the Nova Society podcast.